Maquizcoatl in Cuauhcali, or the making of our mosaic. Maquizcoatl is the double-headed serpent, and it's a symbol that appears in the Aztec culture of the Mexicas and in other places in Latin America as well. One of the most iconic art pieces that remain today is the fantastic pectoral turquoise mosaic, thought to have been held by the Emperor Moctezuma. It is exhibited in the British Museum in London, and there you see very clearly that it is a double-headed serpent. What does it mean? There are many possible interpretations. First of all, the symbol of serpents. They're associated with fertility and renewal. It is a creature that is intelligent, audacious, and skillful. It's linked to water, joining the underworld of death with the world of the living through water and sky. In the Nahuatl language, coatl means serpent, but it also means twin, and it gives rise to the modern word that is used in Mexico, cuate, to denote twins or best friends. So the serpent also symbolizes cooperation and friendship. I am a twin sister. Loli and I are identical twins. And so we decided to work together to create our very own Maquizcóatl for my new bathroom in Melbourne. And this is the year 2020, in the middle of the COVID lockdowns. What we want to symbolize is, first of all, a sense of intelligence and resilience. We wanted to cherish our Mexican background and the sense of collaboration and also rebirth. I had a fatal accident in 2018 and I was resuscitated in the ambulance. The idea is that each of the heads of our own Maquizcóatl will be representing one of us. So we will be embedded in the symbolism. Now, this presentation is called Maquizcóatl in Cuauhcali. So right now, I am going to explain what is Cuauhcali. Cuauhcali is my house in Melbourne, and we named it that way because it comes from, it's a Nahuatl word. It comes from the word Cuauhitl, which means tree or jungle, and Cali, that means house. My house in Melbourne is in a beautiful environment surrounded by gardens and greens in the neighborhood of Fitzroy in Melbourne, Australia. So we designed the mosaic for the backsplash of my kitchen, and we see here that coatl appears in the bottom. This is a single-headed serpent with a head and a tail, and this serpent is symbolizing a change in skin because I moved to Melbourne. But we also created the hieroglyph that basically spells out the name of the house in the Nahuatl convention. The symbol for Cali in Nahuatl is embedded into the symbol for Cuauhitl, for tree or jungle. And thus we create a hieroglyph that contains the name of the house in the mosaic. So this is the house where Maquizcóatl will be living one day. Now, for the design, we worked together via email, Skype, WhatsApp, what's not, because we are 16,000 kilometers and 14 hours apart and in the middle of lockdown rules in the COVID-19 pandemic. So we had to be very creative. Loli is the artist, and she took the idea from the existing copy, the existing item in the British Museum, and she created a version of that. However, in the technique of the mosaic that I just showed you in my kitchen, it's going to be pretty hard for me to be able to copy this design exactly. So I had to adapt. And in order to adapt, I also took two of my Quetzalcoatl which are little bone sculptures that I bought in Teotihuacan in Mexico. And looking at the actual Quetzalcoatl's, Quetzalcoatl means the plumed serpent, and it has the same face that we want to give to Maquizcoatl. So looking at that and Loli's design, I was able to adapt the design to the mosaic. Working together, I was making my own designs, and then Loli was making corrections. She realized that I had it wrong. Not surprisingly, I'm not the artist. And so she explained to me why it was wrong and how to correct it. And as you can see, she was using the model of the British Museum on the right-hand side, shown here. And so she sent me her comments through email, and that allowed me to be able to correct that. Now, one thing is to have the design and have the idea and know that what we want to do. And the other thing is to actually do it. The magician of how to do this or how to do that is our beloved friend Ari, and he lives in Warrnambool. And so I actually went there. The restrictions were lifted. Traveling restrictions were lifted. And I went to Warrnambool to visit Ari, and so that we can actually do the mosaic together. This is a map of Victoria in Australia, and it shows Warrnambool is 270 kilometers to the southeast of Melbourne. And the Aboriginal name, Warrnambool, means between two rivers. So to honor the role of Ari and Warrnambool, because that is the birthplace of our Maquizcóatl, I decided to create Maquizcóatl swimming between two rivers. So you will see how it is depicted. The materials. So the materials that you would need if you want to do something like this are glass mosaics from Mandala Arts Australia, and they're fabulous. They're fantastic people. And also I got some gold accents for the body. Now, choosing the colors was also quite elaborated, and Loli also helped because the design was basically Loli's. And so once you have the pieces, pieces of the rectangles of the glass, you have to break them, because the mosaic is based on putting together randomly broken pieces of mosaic. To break them, you're going to need some tools. We used some tools particularly for the glass tiles. Then you're going to need an adhesive. The adhesive is a gluey substance. You put it on your surface, and then you start putting there all the mosaic pieces that are going to be glued in. And you have to work relatively fast because it dries. It dries fast. Once you're done with the mosaic, and you will see this later on, you have to grout. That's the finishing touch. And the grout is a special grout. It has to be super fine. If you want to do your mosaic waterproof, then you have to add substance to the grout. And you're going to need your squeegee in order to spread the grout correctly. Once we have the materials, first thing we did was to buy a cement sheet. As you can see, it's a pretty big one because our project was very big. So on the cement sheet, I started making the lines on how the basic design is going to go. And then I cut the cement sheet. What I decided to do was that the cement sheet was going to be cut in relatively very, very simple lines, because the mosaic Maquizcóatl is going to be embedded into the tiles of my bathroom. And the tilers are going to be able to do it much better and easier. And also I wanted to prevent them from charging me a fortune. And if the cuts in the cement sheet are very, very straight lines, then it's easier for the tiler to accommodate and put it in. Once you have it, you put your basic rectangles of the glass tiles, and you start figuring out how you're going to be combining the colors and which colors you're going to need for each of the segments. We work by segments because the adhesive dries very fast. And so working on segments means that I have to have all of the tiles broken but also you need to break them as you go, because sometimes you need a special piece to fit on a particular place. So you need to have all your tools together with you, very handy. That shows Ari cutting the teeth. The teeth and the eyebrows was what took us the longest and the most difficult parts of Maquizcoatl. Once we had the faces done, the rest of the body was really, really, really fast. So once we have everything, we start just filling in the design with the pieces of mosaic. We also needed a little bit of math, so math is very useful. In our design, one part of Maquizcoatl is going to go on one wall, and the other part is going to go on a perpendicular wall. And we didn't want Maquizcoatl to have a very sharp turn. We wanted her to have more volume. So there is a diagonal piece that has to go joining these two pieces. So basically our Maquizcoatl is made as a triptych, 3 pieces together. So I had to do a little bit of math to calculate what was the length of the cement sheet that we needed. And to the right-hand side, I'm showing that it actually worked. So once you're done preparing, you start actually doing the mosaic. And as I said, actually putting everything together, the final part is relatively fast because the adhesive dries very fast. So you work on segments. And as you can see, I like to put the colors that I'm working on. For example, the body of Maquizcoatl was green and one color called gelati, and the lighter color, whereas the rivers were the blue tones of the rivers. So I like to put the colors together so that it's easier for me to just pick things as I go and put them on the adhesive. Once everything is done, you do the grouting. The grouting is also a bit of a mess, so that's why I said you need a lot of rugs and you need to keep your surfaces as clean as possible, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of mess in your house. But grout, you put the grout covering the whole thing. With the squeegee, you make sure that it really goes into all the spaces between the tiles. And then you have to wait for it to dry a little bit, but not completely. And when it is more or less dry, you start polishing, cleaning basically the surface, and that polishes the glass as well. The end result, once you do that, is very shiny. It's really, really lovely. It's nice. So I wanted to show the golden nuggets that are embedded all throughout the body of Maquizcoatl. But also, as I mentioned, this is the year 2020. And so I also put little specks of red in the river surrounding Maquizcoatl to represent the virus that we have floating around in this time of pandemic. And that is the whole triptych. It's very large, so it really doesn't really fit very well in just one photo. And very soon, hopefully, she will be finally put in her right place in the bathroom.